On my son's wedding day, I awoke to a shredded dress, but an incredible text from my daughter-in-law stirred a maelstrom of emotions within me. The remnants of the dress lay scattered across my bedroom floor like jagged memories of promises once made. How could this happen? My heart sank not just for the loss but for what the dress represented, a love story intertwined with decades of sacrifices and sleepless nights, all for Ethan and our family. My breath was shallow as I sifted through the tattered fabric, fingers grazing the edges like swirls of nostalgia. Each tear whispered of dreams unveiled and dreams denied. As the sound of wedding preparations echoed through the house, guests arriving, laughter rippling from the living room, my mind raced, entangled in a web of despair. Today, my son would embark on a new journey, a chapter of his life filled with hope and love. But did no one else see the serious rift this family harbored, growing like a silent shadow? And there it was, the ping of my phone, an unexpected message from Lily, my estranged daughter. After years of silence, her words flowed like a hesitant river breaking free. "I want to create something special for Ethan's wedding," she wrote, extending a hand of reconciliation. A part of me longed to reach back, to welcome her back into our lives. Yet another part recoiled in fear, expecting rejection and turmoil, the unhealed wounds from her departure a painful echo in my heart. The idea of her honoring our family legacy with her artwork could be a bridge, but would it also be a reminder of our failures? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As I read and reread her message, the emotions clawed at me. An aching hope flickered against the backdrop of ousting dread. Could this day offer us a chance to mend things, or would the wedding only serve to amplify our different paths? I could almost hear the thread of tension weaving through the walls of our home, what I had once thought was a sanctuary. The laughter outside blurred into muffled sounds, while the chaos of preparations seemed insistent, urging me to move, to react. With every passing second, I faced a grim dilemma. Should I reply to Lily, to invite her presence back into this celebration laden with both joy and quiet despair? The urgency of time pressed against me, each tick of the clock reminding me of the fabric of our family, unraveling a little more, each moment altering our collective fate. As I stood in the remnants of that wedding dress, my heart heavy with uncertainty, I understood something vital. The act of typing a response could redefine the course of our family. Now was I brave enough to reclaim my daughter and risk facing the ghosts of our past? A shred of fear gripped me, whispering that perhaps some bonds were immutable. My trembling fingers hovered over the screen, my mind spinning with possibilities and desires. Would I ever find the courage to reconnect, or would my silence deepen the chasm forever? The layers of emotions swirled within me like a storm, and I suddenly felt an urgency to respond. Holding the phone, I could feel the slight tremor in my hands, a physical manifestation of my inner turmoil. As the cacophony of wedding bliss surged around me, my world felt like a split screen, one side filled with laughter and love, the other shadowed by a haunting silence I had allowed to linger for too long. That I inhaled deeply, summoning the courage to reply. Simple words began to form in my mind, but instinct halted my fingers. How could I make this moment count? The weight of missed years pressed heavily on me. Did I want to rekindle our bond, or was it easier to maintain the distance, to wrap myself in the safety of unresolved feelings? Then my mind drifted back to her artwork. Lily had always seen the world through a vibrant lens, whereas I, too often, lingered in the realms of practicality and duty. I thought of how she previously painted our lives, not always perfect, but uniquely beautiful in their complexities. It dawned on me that her artistic expression might not just be a bridge but also a reminder of our shared memories, which I had kept locked away, afraid of their power to wound or heal. As I continued to wrestle with my thoughts, memories flickered vividly. I remembered the days spent at the art studio, both of us covered in paint, our laughter bouncing off the walls as she created dazzling pieces. Those were our moments, untainted by the fallout of arguments and misunderstandings. What if this message was a chance to restore that connection, a revival of the dreams I had once nurtured for her? A determined resolve began to rise within me. I didn't want my son's wedding to become a backdrop for unspoken resentments. It was a day of love. Could it also be a day of forgiveness? With renewed clarity, I opened the message thread and began to type. Words flowed tentative yet hopeful. I would love that, Lily. Let's create something beautiful together. With that simple response sent, a surge of adrenaline coursed through me. The act of reaching out felt like stepping off a precipice into the unknown. What awaited me on the other side? The reply I hoped for? Or the harsh reality of locked doors and echoes of past misunderstandings? I made my way back to the living room, where the sounds of celebration enveloped me, yet the silence within remained palpable. My mind shifted rapidly between hope and anxiety. Were my choices today paving the way for healing, or were they risking more heartbreak? As friends and family filled the room, I caught sight of Ethan, radiant with joy, and I felt a rush of maternal pride intertwined with a hint of guilt for the emotional distance I had let linger between Lily and me. The wedding was not merely a celebration of union, it was a mirror, reflecting the state of our family, fractured yet yearning for connection. In that moment, I recognized a truth I could no longer ignore: owning my vulnerabilities was necessary. Weaving together disparate threads of family history demanded more than silence and avoidance. It required strength, resilience, and above all, an acknowledgement of the love that had once united us. As we toasted to love, I sensed the journey to mend our relationships had only just begun. My resolve strengthened. I suddenly felt a glimmer of hope amidst the swirling uncertainty. Little did I know, the real test of this rekindling awaited just around the corner, and the shadows once thought buried would come crashing back to the surface. Would I have the strength to confront them? Standing at the edge of the living room, the revelry swirling around me felt surreal. Conversations bubbled, laughter rang out, but I nearly drowned in the juxtaposition of joy and dread. My mind lingered on the message sent to Lily and the uncertainty that hung in the air like a thick fog. The thrill of hope warred against the weight of the past, and the more I thought about it, the more I felt adrift. Ethan's laughter drifted through, warm and inviting. It was a sound I had longed to hear, a gentle reminder of the love we cultivated as a family. Yet, my heart ached as I contemplated the chasms between us, the ones I had allowed to fester for too long. I was proud of him, the man he had become, but could he see the battle I was fighting within? The clinking of glasses brought me back to the present moment. I inched closer to the celebration, partially wanting to absorb his joy and equally drowning in my own inner conflict. How did I allow fear to silence me for so long? Each infectious laugh echoed my insecurities, mocking my hesitance. Joyous day, isn't it? A voice piped up beside me. It was Sarah, my longtime friend, her smile radiant and full of life. You should be dancing, celebrating. Your boy is getting married. Yes, I offered, my voice trailing off. It is a beautiful day. Beautiful, indeed, she agreed. But don't forget about the other half of you, the part that needs to heal, too. In those simple words, a truth struck me: Sarah was right. My healing was not secondary, it was essential. The road to rebuilding my relationship with Lily previously seemed daunting, but if I had learned anything from my own journey, it was that staying rooted in sorrow only stunted my growth. I needed to continue sending out the branches of forgiveness, extending them towards those I cared for. Her eyes were searching mine, and I felt exposed. Have you heard from Lily? She pressed gently, gingerly. I pulled out my phone and glanced at the screen. No new messages. Anxiety took root, but perhaps waiting was also part of the process. Moments like these demanded patience, something I had rarely practiced. What was I so afraid of? Failure? Rejection? No. It was the fear of exposing my vulnerabilities, of showing the emotional fractures that scared me the most, the pieces I had kept hidden beneath layers of responsibility. The music shifted, a slow tune enveloping the room, prompting couples to sway. I could see Ethan moving towards his new bride, laughter mingled with a touch of awe in his expression. A burgeoning confidence bubbled within me as I noticed others join the dance, letting the melody guide their movements. I wanted to participate. No, I needed to, even if that meant stepping outside of my comfort zone. I let go of the moment's heaviness and took a step into the center of the room, arms extending outwards as if I were inviting the warmth of connection. It was time for me to shine, even if it felt unfamiliar. I would confront my fears, and in turn, I would offer the opportunity for reconnection not only with Lily but with a version of myself that I had long forgotten. As I began to move, a mixture of trepidation and exhilaration surged through me. My heart raced, and for the first time today, I felt free. The music wrapped around me, distilling every ounce of doubt, and I realized this was more than celebration, it was a declaration of resilience. But then, a sudden buzz interrupted my thoughts, and I glanced at my phone. A new message from Lily lit the screen, and my breath hitched in my throat. This was at the moment of truth. Would the words she typed hold an answer, an opening of doors long shut, or would they encapsulate the fear I had sought to overcome? The moment hung in the air, heavy with possibilities and memories. I could feel the rhythm of the dance floor pulsing beneath my feet, yet my attention fixed on the glowing screen of my phone, the message from Lily a tether to a reality I had long been waiting to confront. I glanced around, momentarily jarred by the brightness and gaiety that enveloped everyone else. It felt like a dream. Every laugh, every embrace around me was a stark reminder of the barriers I had helped build between us. Taking a deep breath, I opened the message. The words materialized slowly, each one fraught with consequence. Can we talk? I miss you. A simple request, perhaps the most profound one I had received in years. My heart fluttered with hope, a rush of emotion that was both exhilarating and terrifying. What did she mean by talk? Was it a plea for understanding, an olive branch extended toward reconciliation? Or was it an admission of pain that could bring to the surface everything I had buried? As I read the message again, clarity struck. This was not just about me. It was time to step into the role I should have embraced long ago, a mother capable of facing her own flaws and failures. Any hesitation to respond felt like a betrayal. It could not hide behind fear anymore. Sarah, I said, my voice steadying, I need to find a quiet spot. Of course, she replied, sensing the urgency in my tone. I'll help you. One foot in front of the other, I navigated through the crowd, my heart drumming louder with every step away from the warmth of the celebration. It felt bewildering, like entering a fog that concealed both danger and promise. I finally found refuge in a small alcove near the back of the hall, a place away from prying eyes and booming laughter. My fingers trembled as I typed a reply. I tried to remember how I used to connect with her when she was younger, how easy it used to be to share laughter, stories, all the little things that built a foundation between us. Now, the response felt layered with weighty emotions that threatened to shatter any semblance of ease. Lily, I miss you too. Where can we meet? I hit send and closed my eyes for a moment, allowing the hum of the party to fade. In this quiet corner, I could no longer hide from the inevitable confrontation with my own regrets. Was I ready to truly face the years of silence? The decisions made in haste that had wounded both our hearts? Questions raced through my mind as I leaned against the wall. Each uncertainty began unraveling all over again, fears, imagined scenarios of failure, the very things that had held me captive until now. I needed to embrace honesty, in my relationship with her and within myself. Gripping my phone tightly, I concentrated on steadying my breath. I had a chance here, perhaps my last chance to bridge the very gaps I had feared confronting. It wasn't merely about mending fences, it was about reclaiming the pieces of the past that had caused so much pain. Was I ready to acknowledge my own failures as a mother? More importantly, could I learn to forgive myself? A sudden buzz interrupted my thoughts, jolting me back to reality. A quick glance revealed another message. Meet me at the park where we used to play. I'll be there in 30 minutes. The weight of her words ignited a mix of excitement and anxiety within me. It was her familiar way of inviting me back to a shared moment, our little sanctuary. Memories of laughter and joy flooded back, but so did the clarity that what lay ahead demanded courage and vulnerability. This wasn't just a meeting, it was a chance to reshape our relationship, to build a path forward. As I stepped back into the warmth of the celebration, my heart raced with both fear and determination. This was the turning point, I could feel it deep in my bones. The time had come to face the ghosts of the past and step into the light. And just like that, the music began to swell again, filling the air with a renewed sense of purpose, the first notes of my journey to reconciliation. But as I ventured back, the thoughts spun, a question lingered, incessantly, demanding attention. What would she really say? Would she embrace the change, or would she still hold on to the hurt? The park was bathed in the fading light of the evening, a golden hue that almost felt nostalgic, reminiscent of too many moments once shared between Lily and me. As I walked through the familiar pathways, each step felt heavier than the last, weighed down by lingering memories of laughter, innocence, and the strain that had twisted our relationship into something complicated and fraught. I scanned the area, searching for her, a knot of anxiety twisting in my stomach. This place held remnants of our past, evidence of the bond once felt like a solid thread, now a tangled mess of misunderstandings and silence. The swings creaked softly in the breeze, and a couple of children's laughter broke in gentle bursts against the backdrop of rustling trees. With a deep inhale, I anchored myself in the moment. I needed to confront the reality of our relationship and take responsibility for the distance that had grown. Reflecting on what I had avoided for far too long, I felt a burgeoning resolve within me. Each doubt had carved pathways in my mind, but they were not unchangeable. Change would demand resilience, and the only way forward was through discomfort. As my thoughts spiraled, a familiar figure emerged on the path. Lily, just a moment before an old part of me would have turned away. But I stood my ground. She looked different yet the same, a teenager transformed into a young woman, carrying shadows of hurt behind her bright eyes. I swallowed hard, grappling with the flood of emotions that surged at the sight of her. "Hey," she said, her voice steady but delicate, almost a whisper carried by the wind. "Hi," I managed to respond, my heart racing. The distance between us, both physical and emotional, felt monumental. Where to begin? The history weighed heavily on my shoulders, a mantle of guilt and regret. I had unwittingly shielded my heart under layers of excuses, frightened to unveil the flaws that defined my identity as a mother. "I came when I got your message," she continued, her hands fidgeting at her sides. I've wanted to talk for a while." The sincerity in her tone both comforted and devastated me, a mirror reflecting everything our communication had lost over the years, a longing dulled by silence. That I took a step closer, the park's memories urging me to break the cycle, to anchor our relationship in openness. "I want to talk too, Lily. I want to be honest with you." The words tumbled out, an invitation layered with vulnerability I had avoided for years. "Do you even know how much I've missed you?" she asked, her expression wavering between anger and an unfulfilled desire for connection, a dangerous mix that struck fear in me. I understood that I had to navigate delicately through the emotion of loss, the loss of time, of moments that slipped between our fingers. "I know I haven't been the mother you needed," I said, each word resonating in the air like a confession. "I regret how I let us drift apart. I was so caught up in my own problems that I couldn't see how much I was hurting you." The silence that followed was heavy, like the air before a storm, loaded with anticipation and potential. She didn't immediately respond, and in that instant, it struck me that this time was different. I was ready to take responsibility, to engage in a way that could dismantle the barriers we had built. It wasn't about just asking for forgiveness, it was about understanding, about making room for her pain. "What if I never forgive you?" she finally responded, a storm brewing behind her eyes. The question hung in the air, sharp and brittle like glass. The possibility of being unable to evolve our relationship played through my mind, threatening to darken the light of our present moment. Yet something flickered in the depths of her gaze. Was it hope? "I can't change the past," I replied, steadying myself, "but I do want to understand how I can help us move forward. Let us figure this out together." As I spoke, it dawned on me that the answer lay not in her forgiveness but in the choice we both needed to embrace growth through shared experience and the courage to confront our collective wounds. Yet, unseen challenges lurked, becoming palpable in that seemingly mundane conversation. Would all my revelations push her further away? Or was this the first step toward healing? As we moved toward this fragile connection, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. The moment teetering on the edge of possibility brought a fresh onslaught of doubts. Would I be able to sustain this newfound openness? Time had taught me that honesty was a double-edged sword, capable of revival or ruin. And just as I thought this, another hidden truth surfaced. A memory buried deep within myself whispered of better days, begging me for acknowledgement. But this realization brought with it new questions, sharpening the tension. Would the truths I faced lead to growth, or would they deepen the rift? The resolution felt both tantalizingly close and achingly far away. My resolve wavered in the aftermath of our tentative exchange. The weight of the conversation pressed down on me, amplifying each breath I took. Lily's question lingered, digging deeper into the wounds I had carried for too long. What if she never forgave me? The fear gnawed at my insides, intertwining with my determination to rebuild our relationship. Gathering my thoughts was an exercise in frustration. I had never before confronted my feelings of inadequacy as a mother. The self-doubt that emerged felt suffocating. But that discomfort also ignited a flicker of clarity within me. I had spent years shielding my heart from vulnerability, convincing myself that emotional distance was preferable to facing the truth. The truth that I had been selfish. What do we do now? I finally asked, breaking the silence, my voice trembling. The sun dipped further below the horizon, casting long shadows that mirrored our chasms in communication. Her eyes held an intensity that disarmed me. I don't know. I'm just so tired of pretending that everything is okay, when it's not. It was an admission I understood all too well. Pretending had become my default mode, even when the cracks in our relationship threatened to widen with every unspoken word. In that moment, the fear of facing my shortcomings transformed into a burning desire to change, to take control, and to shift the trajectory of our lives together. It's okay to feel tired, Lily. It's okay to want things to be different, I said, a mixture of compassion and self-pity in my tone. I felt a shift, a slight easing of the tension between us. Let us address what has been tearing us apart. I'm here now, and I will not turn away. Not again. The simplicity of my statement was a lifeline thrown into choppy waters, fragile yet filled with possibility. I sensed a cautious hope begin to form in our shared silence, an unspoken agreement to explore the chasms that had grown unchecked. What do you really want from me? She asked, her expression softening just a fraction but still brimming with unresolved pain. It was a challenge, and I could feel every drop of emotion she poured into the words, forcing me to look inside myself for the first time in years. I want to know you again, I replied honestly. I want to hear your stories, your dreams, your disappointments. I want us to find a way back to each other. We deserve that chance. Fire ignited in my tone, a determination that felt foreign yet empowering. She tilted her head slightly, donning the mask of skepticism that had grown familiar over the years. But can we really come back? Can things ever change? As I looked at my daughter, the realization struck me our journey would not be one of simple reconciliation but of laborious rebuilding, brick by brick. But could I withstand the discomfort to achieve that? I can't promise to have all the answers, I admitted. But I promise I'll try. For you, for us. A flicker of something that resembled hope crossed her face, and I seized that moment like a life buoy amidst the waves. Let us start slow. Maybe we can carve out some time each week. Just the two of us. No expectations. Just honesty. She considered this, her brow furrowed in thought. I could see the gears turning in her mind, a silent battle between skepticism and the desire for connection. What is stopping you from walking away right now? She asked, her voice steady but probing. The question hit me with the force of a kick. What, indeed? The memories of past mistakes swelled within me, taunting my resolve. But as I remembered the weight of my own silence, clarity washed over me. It was then I recognized my own hidden bravery as strength to confront the skeletons in my closet. I refused to let fear dictate my actions anymore, I stated, the conviction in my voice battling the looming shadows of doubt. I won't allow myself to be paralyzed by what-ifs. I will face this head-on. The air was palpable, charged with unresolved tension and something else, renewed purpose. But could this truly signal a turn for the better or merely invite more pain? As I watched Lily consider my offer, the world around us faded, leaving just two women caught in the turbulence of their past, teetering on the edge of potential revival. Despite the uncertainty, I felt emboldened. Quite possibly, I was at the beginning of a journey that had long been overdue, but with this awakening came the lingering doubts that clung to my heart. As we stood at the brink, revisiting the foundations of our relationship, I couldn't shake the feeling that deeper, unexamined truths awaited us, truths that might demand more than we were both ready to face, and just as I prepared to speak again, a new urgency ignited within me, a question I hadn't leaked until that moment. What if this was not just about us, but also about rediscovering who I truly was? The realization echoed in my skull, tantalizing and terrifying all at once. The rustle of leaves and the soft chirping of evening crickets filled the air, but those sounds barely registered as my focus narrowed in on Lily. Her skepticism hung between us like a thick fog, yet I dared to breach the layer of uncertainty that enveloped our conversation. Every moment spent in silence only deepened the chasm I desperately wanted to bridge. "What are you thinking?" I probed gently, pushing against the wall she had built around herself. Beneath her scrutiny, I felt exposed. Not merely as a mother seeking reconciliation, but as a woman yearning for clarity in a life that had long been dictated by insecurity. She shifted, absently tracing patterns in the grass beneath her, as though searching for answers buried in the earth itself. "I don't know, Mom. Sometimes, it feels easier to keep everything the way it is." "It's safer," she finally replied, her voice a fragile whisper. "Safer." The word echoed in my mind. I recognized that instinct, one I had succumbed to for years. Yet, the prospect of remaining stagnant seemed far more daunting than confronting my vulnerabilities. "But safer doesn't mean happier," I responded, urging her to see beyond the comfort of avoidance. "Don't you want more for yourself?" She looked up then, eyes glistening with unshed tears, and I felt a painful tightness in my chest. This was the moment of vulnerability I had hoped for, a real connection sparking between us, bridging the gap of misunderstanding. "I guess," she said, her voice barely above a murmur, "but what if we just end up hurt again?" That question cut deep, a reflection of my own fears. I had to confront my past choices, dissecting their influence not just on my life, but on Lily's. "The truth is, real connections can be messy," I said, my heart racing. "But the risk of pain isn't a reason to turn away from each other. We can build something new, even if it feels daunting." The truth of my statement was not lost on me, nor, I hoped, on her. I had underestimated the damage that silence had wrought. With each moment spent denying my own failings as a mother, I had denied her the chance to express her own pain, her feelings of rejection. I felt the threads of our relationship tangling tighter, but now they seemed to unravel in slow motion. "What if I let you down again?" she said, a tremor in her voice, her defenses starting to crumble. "Then we learn from it," I replied firmly. "But if we never try, we risk losing everything. You're worth every bit of discomfort it might take to find our way back to each other." I sat beside her, mirroring her posture, my heart pounding as I sensed the shifting tide of the conversation. There was gravity in our exchange, an invitation to release the weight we had both carried for too long. Lily's vulnerability resonated with me. Maybe this wasn't solely about her reclaiming her voice, but also about me reclaiming my own identity outside the shadows of failure. With each passing second, I realized how desperately I needed this as much as she did. As she inhaled deeply, the tension seemed to ease ever so slightly. "Maybe we could try talking about things, start fresh," she suggested hesitantly, her voice gaining strength. "Yes," I affirmed, the word bursting forth with gratitude and cautious excitement. "Let us start with what's hard. It might lead us somewhere unexpected." The darkness that had loomed over us did not vanish, but in that acceptance lay the promise of growth, an opportunity for genuine transformation. But even in that flicker of hope, I sensed the weight of unresolved issues still hovering close, the ghosts of our past refusing to retreat without a fight, and yet, instead of retreating into the shadows, I felt compelled to lean into this moment, to be courageous. There was a chance here, an impactful shift, not just for us but for the woman I was destined to become. As the day finally faded into night, a new layer of understanding began to unfold. "Can we start by telling each other one thing we've been afraid to say?" I suggested, my heart pounding with anticipation. At that moment, a wave of uncertainty crashed over us both. How far would we push ourselves? But still, I held on to the hope that our journey had just begun, knowing full well that as much as we stood on the brink of renewal, the path ahead would call for more than we ever anticipated. What truths lay buried, waiting to be unearthed? The air hung heavy with the scent of rain-soaked earth, the impending storm mirroring the tempest of emotions brewing inside me. I sat cross-legged on the couch, heart racing as I waited for Lily to gather her thoughts. The conversation was proving to be more daunting than I had anticipated. Each second stretched like an eternity, amplifying my anxiety. So she began slowly, glancing up at me, her brow furrowed in concentration. "What is something you've been scared to say?" The question anchored me, momentarily drawing me away from my own turbulent thoughts. I had opened the door to this dialogue, yet stepping through it felt like taking a leap into an abyss. My mind raced, opening myself up was a risk. What if I exposed my weaknesses, only to have her judge or reject me again? I've always been afraid of not being enough, I confessed, my voice trembling. Not as a mother, not as a woman. It gnaws at me. The vulnerability in my confession washed over her, pulling a fleeting hint of surprise from her. I watched as she processed my words, her expression shifting from skepticism to a kind of understanding I hadn't seen in a long time. "I didn't know you felt that way," she murmured, a note of compassion creeping into her tone. "I guess I thought I was the only one struggling." This mutual acknowledgement brought some warmth into the chilling space between us. Leaning into the moment, I pressed forward. "What about you? What is something you've been scared to say?" For a beat, I could see the wheels turning in her mind, the internal battle playing out behind her eyes. "Sometimes," she started, her voice hesitant. "Sometimes I feel like you love my brother more than me." The accusation felt like a physical blow. My heart dipped into a profound sorrow that I hadn't anticipated. It was not merely an expression of her feelings but a reflection of my past actions that had caused this rift. The truth stung, but it demanded attention. Here, laid bare, was the crux of our shared pain. "It was never about love," I began, carefully choosing my words. "It was about my struggles. I admit, I was often overwhelmed. I didn't balance my time well. I'm sorry, Lily. I never meant to make you feel less than cherished." Her eyes widened, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the blame shift within her, replacing itself with something more profound: recognition. "Do you really mean that?" she asked, a mixture of hope and skepticism threading through her voice. "Yes," I affirmed, my voice steady. "We both have been tangled in this web of misunderstanding, thinking we were alone in our fears. But we carry each other's burdens whether we see them or not. Let us resolve this together." With each exchange, the distance between us began to dissolve. An uncharted territory of memories and emotions opened up, and vulnerability became our common ground. Each shared confession unveiled new layers of our relationship, illuminating the shadows that had previously obscured our connection. The room felt charged, the storm had fully set in outside, yet inside, a quiet calm began to blossom. I dared to imagine a future free from these chains that bound us in silence. The moment felt monumental, an emotional turning point. But lurking beneath that enthusiasm was a nagging doubt. Just as I began to feel momentum building, Lily's gaze drifted toward the window. "But what if it's not enough? What if we can't bridge everything we've lost?" Her question pierced the air like a sharp gust of wind, and I felt my confidence falter momentarily. "Then we'll find ways to create new moments," I proposed, a tentative determination creeping back. As we faced each other in the dim light, an unspoken understanding passed between us. Together, we could navigate the murky waters ahead. But with that understanding also came worry. If we began to confront everything, what skeletons might we unearth? Hidden grievances, unspoken words, what else lay buried, waiting for the right moment to surface? Lily's question hung in the air, heavy with anticipation, ready to disrupt the fragile balance we had started to create. "Let us continue this conversation," she said quietly, her resolve mirrored in her eyes. "I think it's time we both faced our fears." And as she spoke those words, I realized that this journey for healing had only just begun, and the next steps would demand more courage than we had ever shown before. The storm intensified outside, pounding rain against the windows as I stared at Lily, feeling a tidal wave of emotions crash over me. The flickering of the lights mirrored my innermost turmoil. It was clear we were at a critical juncture in our relationship. The words we shared now were valuable pieces of ourselves laid bare, and I sensed that stepping back would only deepen the chasm between us. "What do you want this moment to be, Lily?" I asked, forcing myself to keep my voice steady despite the chaos outside. "Do you want it to be just another conversation that ends in unresolved emotions? Or do you want it to signify change?" Lily's brow knitted together as she seemed to wrestle with the weight of the decision. The shadows cast by the storm softened her features, making her look vulnerable yet strikingly resolute. "It has to mean something," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't know how to make it happen." The admission stung, reminding me of my own uncertainties. Was I merely offering comfort, or was I capable of catalyzing the change we desperately needed? My mind flickered back to all the instances I had felt lost parenting without a map, juggling work and family, often retreating into silence. "I don't know either," I said, "but maybe that's the first step." Acknowledging that we don't have all the answers might bring us closer. "But what if that vulnerability exposes us to more pain?" she countered, her mistrust lingering beneath the surface. "Then we'll deal with it together," I replied, my heartbeat quickening. I'd rather face pain than pretend we're fine. The tension in the air shifted, and I could feel a palpable current drawing us closer, as if unspoken threads were weaving our hearts together. What if, instead of focusing on the past, we explore what we want moving forward? I suggested, desperation and hope merging in my tone. Lily nodded, allowing a moment of contemplation. "That could work. I want to be someone you trust." Her voice faltered slightly as she spoke, revealing her fear of rejection. "Then trust me too. I will work to earn that from you, starting right now. Let us map out what our relationship could look like," I urged, humbled by the candidness of the moment. "Okay," she said, her voice brimming with a hint of determination. "Let us start small." We spent the next several minutes discussing the pieces of our lives we wanted to rebuild and what it would take. Each word exchanged acted as a lifeline, bringing structure to the chaos. As we opened up, it became apparent how our individual fears had shackled us. In confronting them together, we found solace, adding pieces to our emotional puzzle. Suddenly, as I reached for a pen and paper hoping to jot down a plan, my phone buzzed, interrupting our fragile momentum. I glanced at the screen and found a text message waiting for me. My heart sank as I read it. It was from my eldest son, detailing his upcoming wedding day. Something about his words sparked a fresh surge of anxiety, a deep need for my family's cohesion, especially as far behind the scenes, this wedding marked a new chapter that was irrevocably tied to the one we were attempting to begin. "Who's the message from?" Lily asked, a flicker of curiosity lighting her eyes. "It's from Ethan," I replied, squaring my shoulders and inhaling deeply. "He's getting married soon. I hope all of this works out before then." But even as I spoke, an unsettling idea gripped me. What if this new journey we had embarked upon unraveled when the spotlight shone brightest? Could I repair our loose threads in time for such a significant occasion? Lily's gaze sharpened, realizing the weight of what I hadn't said. "Are you okay?" she pressed, with that question hanging in the air, tethering the conversation to a precipice. I was forced to confront my latent fears. This wasn't just about our relationship anymore. It was about navigating my role in a family restructuring both fragile and promising. What if, I pondered aloud, the biggest challenge is yet to come, and it's right around the corner? And as my words echoed in the dimly lit room, a chilling anticipation gripped me, offering an unsettling promise of the conflict just beginning to surface, waiting to be unveiled at the wedding. As the days edged closer to Ethan's wedding, the air buzzed with anticipation, yet, an undercurrent of anxiety gripped me like a weight I couldn't shake. Each event in preparation felt dissonant against the quiet ways I and Lily had begun reconnecting. The budding path toward reconciliation had ignited hope, yet I was painfully aware of the fragility of this moment. Early that morning, as I sat at my kitchen table steeped in fragrant coffee, I contemplated the significance of the upcoming celebration. This wedding was not just the beginning of a new chapter for Ethan, it served as a poignant reminder of uncharted territory for our family. Would the emerging dynamics hold this new promise, or were we destined to slip back into old patterns before we even had a chance at solidifying our progress with Lily? When Lily appeared unexpectedly at my door, her determination was palpable. "I thought we could brainstorm ideas for a piece to celebrate Ethan's marriage," she suggested. Inside, a warmth unfurled. Here was evidence our first tangible project together, co-created from love, a shared experience devoid of guilt or resentment. This felt meaningful. "Let us do it," I answered, my voice steadier than I felt. As we moved to gather supplies, I sensed my resolve strengthening. Our collaboration was an essential stepping stone toward rebuilding trust and affection. Hours later, surrounded by splashes of paint and palpable laughter, we created what I hoped would be more than simply a wedding gift. It was a canvas filled with memories of both mine and Lily's intertwined lives, a visual narrative that honored not only Ethan's new beginning but also our attempts to revive a fractured connection. Amid sketches and anecdotes, I finally dared to confront the real core of our journey. I shared my fears from our earlier discussions. What if everything falls apart when emotions run high on the wedding day? I said, my heart racing as I disclosed my deepest worry. For a brief moment, vulnerability enveloped us, thickening the air like fog, but Lily smiled gently in response. "That's part of life. We've stumbled before, but we can figure it out together now. Just like we're doing with the painting, let us layer in the colors and embrace the imperfections," she mused, revealing an understanding I had long thought lost. The more we worked, the more momentum flowed between us, though doubts still clawed at the backdrop of my mind. What would happen if the unhealed fissures resurfaced? But amidst a chorus of laughter, creativity, and renewed clarity, I felt emboldened. Every brush stroke carried the promise of a fresh start. As the wedding day finally dawned, the air felt electric, filled with a vibrancy that only love can command. Guests flowed through the venue, each one glowing with excitement. When Ethan and his bride stood to exchange vows, time appeared suspended in the lavish garden surrounding them, their love an emblem of growth. Yet amidst this serene backdrop, I felt the familiar tightness in my chest return. Apprehension edged at me. Had the strides forward with Lily prepared us for the emotional tumult these gatherings often invite? Just as this thought surfaced, a quiet voice interrupted my reverie. It was Lily, stepping toward me, cautiously carrying the freshly painted canvas, a visual legacy born from our labor of love. "Mom, I want to present this," she said quietly, tilting her face to meet my gaze. "Today is a tribute not only to Ethan and his bride but a symbol of our collaboration." With nervous excitement, we unveiled the piece to the family. Gasps filled the air, not only for the artist's beauty, vibrant colors swirling together which mirrored the chaos of our loving, but for the story it embodied: two women overcoming silence through shared endeavors. Tears filled my eyes as hopeful recognition flooded my heart. Within the brush strokes lay redemption, an acknowledgement of the past but a celebration of our resilience. As I cast a glance toward Ethan, his radiant smile reflected not just the joy of the union before him, but the realization that today also marked a rebirth, an invitation to expand as a family, to embrace each other amidst our renewed connections. Here I stood, once crippled by fear and regret, now fortified by courage and the thrill of vulnerability. In that moment of connection, I found my answer. I was ready to continue building on our newfound foundation with Lily. I caught her eye, a mutual affirmation passing between us, as we both understood that the road ahead might still hold challenges, but together, we could persevere. Standing alongside my son on his special day, I felt the weight of the past dissipate, replaced by an invigorating sense of hope. It was then that I recognized the most profound personal achievement. I had overcome the shackles of fear, rekindling the love I so desperately wanted to nourish, and claiming my place as a mother again, one who felt equipped to face whatever lay ahead. As the sun dipped into golden hues, illuminating a tapestry of family and unity, I held tight to the belief that love, indeed, could conquer all. The wedding would not just mark the beginning of one love story, it also unveiled our path toward healing and rediscovery. Together, we would craft it, moment by moment. Now, if you felt inspired by this journey of overcoming challenges and how pivotal reconnection can be in our lives, then this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that reveal the power of human connection. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because it truly makes a difference in reaching more hearts. Comment your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this powerful conclusion. Your voice matters. and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey.